Hello, I'm back, and as promised, I had promised a video on what you can do about the things that are happening and how you can meet the particular challenge of these COVID-19 lockdown idiot orders that are destroying the fabric of society. There is no other way to describe it because that is in fact what they are doing. So, I love it when people are like, I'm just one guy. What can I do? I don't matter. I'm powerless. Well, the first thing I got to tell you is that's false. That's absolutely false to think that you are completely powerless and there's nothing within your control. You need to stop believing that. And the reason you need to stop believing that, there are many reasons to stop believing that. The first reason is, life is meant to be lived. You need to be in your life. You can't be a spectator to your life. This is exactly why we have the problems we do. And this COVID-19 thing, it's just the end result. It's the end result of years of us living as spectators and not, being involved in our own life and not taking an active role and not, enjoying what there is and owning responsibility for it and, seeing what we can do to live a better life. So, the first thing, I was going to have, the first piece of this, but I guess I thought about my notes for this presentation. I'll start with this. There is a book called Gulag Archipelago. It's a good read. Go read it. I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but basically, long story short, guy ends up in a concentration camp. And, not a concentration, it's the Gulag, in the Soviet Union, where, they would send people that... didn't toe the line, didn't cooperate with the 211 lingo, if you would, and they were political prisoners. And this one guy, he writes this book, and he's like, you know what, he does this unusual thing, even though he's been wronged. He sits down, and he says, how did I err in my life? What did I do wrong in my life to get where I am? I call that approach the Gulag Archipelago analysis. You should do it in your own life. Now, I know there's a lot of things that have happened, me too, and they've happened to you that are not your fault. I mean, you didn't order the governor to just, obliterate your job. You didn't order the governor to, put all those elderly people in nursing homes with COVID. I mean, you didn't order that. You didn't order the president to print money with reckless abandon. You didn't order, all these riots on the highway. You didn't order any of this. And that part is not your fault. But what I will tell you, and this is so important because this feeds into everything, is there are things you can do, identify the things that could have made you things you could have done better and how to start doing them. And basically what this video is a how to start doing those things. I'm not perfect. I'm sure you've got other things you can add to this list. Nobody's perfect. And by the way, as we libertarians say, we don't want to tell you how to live your life because we don't know how. But what we do know is what's helpful. And so this is helpful. And it's just as much about ending these lockdown orders as it is about, building an actual America that actually is great. We haven't been that for a long time, and well, here's also how we get there. So the first thing you got to know is... if you haven't heard of Yuri Bezmenov, go out and look him up. He used to work for the KGB when he was alive. He defected to the West. And he told you exactly how you would do what the Soviets called demoralization of a society. He basically went into, here's how you separate the families, here's how you bust up the churches, here's how, you have government take everything over. And he breaks that down. So go, there's a good interview he did with G. Edward Griffin way back in the day. And it is worth your time to watch it. So go watch it. Start there. And it's worth the whole hour, trust me. And it tells you, it's a reverse engineering, in a sense of how we are in COVID society now. Here's how we got here. Now, it wouldn't have been if it wasn't COVID, it would have been something else. That's just the truth. So, in a way, thank God COVID happened, because now we can have this out, and now we can have this crisis and get back, actually get to something better than we've ever had. I hate it in a way when people try to say, If we were just those days when things were great, it's like, no, no, there's no, if we could just go back to this, back when things were awesome. Things have been screwed up in a lot of different ways throughout the course of American history here. What we can do is we can do way better than we've ever been. And this video is part about the lockdowns and part how to get back to that. So, number one thing, if you can, grow food. Should be obvious. You're going to need some sort of a cushion to deal with things. Learn how to grow food. Or grow food. Start growing food. Just the only way you're going to get good at something is if you start doing it. And that's kind of something you're going to need. Grocery prices are not going to be kind to you, and they already aren't. So you got to do that. I'm sorry, but you can have all the executive orders you want. They're not going to grow a tomato. They're not going to catch a fish. They're not going to do it. So practical skills, get those. If you don't know how to solder, you don't know how to do any plumbing, you don't know how to fix things, go learn that. Go learn it. Useful stuff. You think useful skills. Think learn how to fix your car. You've still got the internet is an amazing thing. You've got the world's resources, the world's all knowledge in human history at your fingertips. You can either do one or two things with that. One is improve your skill set, or two, share pictures of your cat. Seems like an easy choice to me. Three, parts, tools, food, save things, stock them up. Think of things you're going to need. Obviously, even nails, you'd be surprised. That stuff's all important. Because, like I said, the governors can issue all the executive orders they want. It's not going to shingle your damn roof. It's not going to put your car back on the road. It's not going to change a tire. It's not going to, fix any electronics. It's just not, You're dealing with a situation you'll be increasingly more on your own. And the reason is not because, someone just said, I'm going to dismantle everything overnight. It's because people just spent way beyond their means in government, and now there's just going to be a lot less of it. So you're going to have to learn how to, you're going to have to save things that are going to be helpful to you. If you've never done canning, get into it. Make pickles. Do what I do. Make wine. It's useful stuff to have. So as far as your local government is very important. You need to be not just involved in local government. You need to be sounding the alarm to these local yokels saying, do not dare even attempt to implement these things that they are being told to do. Now, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say I'd rather have police going out and fighting violent and property crime than checking up to see if you have a cape for your damn face. And that's a cost-benefit analysis that, I've proofed out, that anybody can proof out, and if they logically take everything going on and acknowledge all the facts, that's where they end up. Okay? You don't want local yokels selectively enforcing, and by the way, try as they may to enforce all of this nonsense, it's going to end up being selective enforcement whether they intended it to or not. And where I am, we're there. So by the way, if somebody wants to do that to you, take them to court. Sue them. Because you know what? You're dealing with a situation where you have rights. You use them or you lose them. Sue them. And I'm not one to say, I want you to do something that I wouldn't agree or volunteer or do myself. And you can say, but I'm not this, or I don't know how, or this or that. Well, you live in the time you live in. And if you're going to let somebody violate your rights, well, you are or you're not. You can roll over and take it, or you can do something about it. And as long as we do have these things called courts, which we may not if these lockdown orders and the nonsense continue, we should use them. And the reason we should use them is because if we don't, we are going to lose them. Now, all these local yokels and all these governors need to be held to account. What they're doing is wrong. It is unconstitutional and it's criminal in many cases. And it needs to be stopped. Now, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, but if it saves one life, and, maybe someone gets you in the press, like, look at that guy. He just wants everyone to die of COVID. Screw them. You have rights. You defend them or you don't. That's it. And you've got this thing called the internet, which is a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. You can use that or you can lose that. And it's immensely helpful if you want to learn how to do that. So, of course, this is not legal advice. There's plenty of legal information online. It's yours. You can do this right now. You can figure this out right now. Anybody can. Some may figure it out more quickly than others. But this is the time you live in. You either want your rights violated or you're going to assert them. So, as far as the other thing you can do, the Freedom of Information Act requests. Well, we have this thing called the FOIA. Let's use it. Let's find out, really, what kind of things are going on. You see, FOIA is so important because it makes government transparent, so we can shine the light on what's going on. Now, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be very, very interesting when everybody in every town in Connecticut, and I've started this process in mine, finally gets all those social dimwitting reports. All those calls to the police. I saw this couple holding hands in the park. I saw this guy not wearing a mask while he walked his dog. Make it public, folks. Make it public. Show everyone who's for these stupid, destructive, insane lockdowns, here's what you did. Here's why you bothered the police. Here's why you diverted the police from solving a violent or property crime. Because you saw someone walking their damn dog. And when you get the copies of those documents or those calls, you put them online. You say, yeah, you remember Bob down the road? He called the cops because someone was walking his dog. Screw Bob. That's where we are. So, it's time to do that. And the act of doing it also calls the attention of local officials to the absurdity of the exercise. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of police, who are good, hardworking, honest people who mean well, are getting tired of this. But folks, you're the one who lets this happen. You're the ones that if you take no action and you don't shine the light on it, the police are kind of going, I'd really like to stop all this social dimwitting stuff. And I know there's a sidebar on do you follow unlawful orders, and I encourage police not to. But, hey, the more you pile it on, the quicker it's going to end. And it doesn't take the majority of us, contrary to popular belief. Because, by the way, major human history changes have never been achieved by the minority, ever. And it is such a stupid illusion that you need to reject it right now. All it takes is a small, even a third of a percent. I mean, it took 1,000 people to institute a heavy progressive income tax in the United States and a central bank of issue, ideas of which the public hated at the time with a passion, which they rightly regarded as horrible, wrong ideas that should have never been implemented. That was 1,000 people did that in the right place. They were all in the right place. 1,000 people put that together. So if you think there are only 1,000 of us, you are very sadly mistaken because there are way more. So forget this illusion of majority thing and do everything you can. Take them to court, do FOIA requests, shine a light on what's going on. You got it. Or you're going to lose it. That's the nature of rights. Use them or lose them. Speaking of which, that also goes to self-defense. Guns are a good idea to buy. More guns, more ammo. Because, hey, if they're defunding the police, that's a fact. And they're not doing it the way you'd think of it. They're doing it by shutting down the tax revenue and the economy. So, you're going to need a gun. I don't care how things go, you're going to need a gun. You're it. What are you going to do? Call the police because someone's trying to break in? Oh, wait, they're busy enforcing social dimwitting orders, and there are only X number of them. And they've got 8,000 of those stupid calls because someone wanted to call the cops and walking their dog. You need a gun. Get cash, get tangibles, get out of electronic banking. Cash is king. So are things like stored food, supplies, parts. I mean, that's very important. I mean, you should probably start getting together with your neighbors and your friends and figuring out, what are you good at doing? What are you good at making? I make wine, you make soap, this guy's a carpenter, and Tim fixes cars, whoever Tim may be. And you can all help each other out. Because if you get those mutual aid networks, you start getting away from this idea, not only of, you gotta executive order everything, not only do you get more empowered, but you also build a support network that we can finally start relying on to build things back up to the way they should be, where people add value. And because they add value, people associate with them, and good ideas are the ones that, happen and the free market wins. So we're building this from scratch. We don't have a lot of time, but that's an important step. So as far as our classic management team A, management team B, paper plastic bullshit debate goes, cut the nonsense. Stop voting Democrat, stop voting Republican, do it now. Don't send them money, don't lend them credence. They're on the same damn team. How can I know that? How do you prove it? Take a look at Congress. Look at Congress, look at all the governors. There's only one governor that's not doing this nonsense. Look at the president. Look at what they're spending. Okay? Trillions of dollars. The congressman I ran against, okay? Joe Courtney is the $6 trillion man. All right? What could you do with $6 trillion? I don't know. How about a biohazard suit, a level 4 for every goddamn day of the month? That's what I could do for every American with $6 trillion. You see, we were starting to have these absurd conversations back with Obamacare, which the Republicans promised to repeal and promised to get rid of, which they lied about, and it never happened. So just the website for Obamacare alone, we're talking $300 million? That's almost $1 million for every American. Why do you even need health insurance if you have almost $1 million for every American? This is the kind of absurdity we're dealing with here. And if you think that voting Republican is going to get you out of this, you have rocks in your head. The problem is too big to vote your way out of now. You don't get to do that anymore, okay? So I don't care if you vote Green. Please vote Libertarian, because you get more control of your life, and that's why I do what I do. And there are a lot of libertarians out there, they just want to leave you alone. This has got to be the year where the people who want to be left alone get involved and get themselves left alone, because they're going to show up and say, we're not buying into it anymore. We're not going to be so pointlessly afraid of one team that's going to spend trillions of dollars, so we go to elect another one that's only going to spend, $1 trillion less dollars. When you start talking trillions of anything, you are in trouble. So you need to get this idea out of your head that you can vote your way out of it, and therefore you don't have to take any other action. And you also need to get this idea out of your head that, if I just support this party, it's all going to go away. Like I said, watch the other video I did today. You've got a problem you can no longer vote your way out of. And it's been a long time in the making. And yes, there are Republicans who have done good work. There are Democrats who've done good work. So the first question you need to ask when this election does come around, if that's your thing, if that's the only thing you want to do, and if that's the only thing you want to do, it's sad and you're not helping yourself. But if it is, the first question would be, are you going to end this nonsense? Are you going to end the lockdowns? Now, I don't care what their answer to any other damn question is. If they're not going to do it, you tell them, get the hell off my lawn. Get out of here. Quit. Stop running. This is where we are. So this paper plastic thing, drop it. It's not helping you. The two-party system is a monopoly. It is broken, and it is only going to hurt you even more every single time. It would take a whole day to go over the lies that have been said and made and represented in defense of, if we just took over the Republican Party, or, the Democrats are going to end the wars now. How many times do you need to be lied to? It's not about you or your safety or your interests. It is one party pointing the other at you like a loaded weapon and threatening you and saying, if you don't go along with my demands, I'm going to break up your storefront. So stop that. Stop going along with it. Now, obviously, you got to take control of your kids' education because, like I said, this is a problem you can't vote your way out of. So whatever you do, you better be getting ready to supplement your kids' education to the best that you can. All right? Homeschooling is going to be a bigger thing. Now, you could say, oh, because of the COVID, fine. If you want to be in that camp of the because of the COVID, if it only saves one life thing, great. Totally get into educating your kids, especially because whether you're talking about the money to pay for the schools or whether you're talking about, oh, we've got too many kids in a room. I mean, it's not going to work. It's absurd. Now, we shouldn't be doing it, and there's no scientific merit to doing any of the things we're planning on doing in the schools. But this whole thing is going to fall apart. So you better get on board with that right now. Homeschooling is going to save your kids' education, whether you like it or not. Here's where we are. Here's what you got to do about it. And eventually, you will actually raise smarter kids. Because look, it's not like your kid turns 4 and you magically lose the ability to teach your kid anything. I taught my kid how to tie his shoes, now he can go to school, and now suddenly I'm not qualified to teach my kid anything. Well, human history would disagree with you, and so would modern science and art and architecture and medicine, and all the wonderful things that we have because people realize that we're all capable of teaching other people other stuff. So get a hold of that, because the sooner you do, the sooner you get a hold of your government. So one thing, this is so important, is reduce your expenses now. If you really, get rid of your credit cards. And this is not legal or consumer financial advice. This is the way I see it, and it's stuff I've lived by, and it's been helpful. Stop racking up the credit cards, because at some point, a lot of people just get into this trap. They're just like, my credit score is everything. It's like, well, what good is your goddamn credit score if you're going to be paying $20 for a loaf of bread for the rest of your life? At some point, you got to realize this isn't helping me. Like, at some point, you gotta pay the piper. And living as a slave to interest has not helped you. It's not helped your society, and it's only gonna screw things up. So if you can consolidate debt, do it while you can, because those loans are going to be harder to get. And you know what? If you qualify for bankruptcy, now's probably a good time to flush the toilet. Because look, life doesn't end because you go bankrupt. Especially successful people, they go bankrupt all the time. They start over. The whole purpose of flushing the toilet on this stuff and going bankrupt is so you can start over, okay? You need to be looking at this whole COVID-19 thing as a financial restart. Get a fresh start. Get there as soon as you can, And as far as, like, if you're a property owner, especially if it's underwater, lose it. It's not helping you. Underwater assets are not going to suddenly be made productive because you want them to, or you double down and you just load more money into them. At a certain point, it's what I would call a gambler's fallacy. You think, if I keep putting more money in, it's going to pay out. Get rid of it. Unload it. Make it somebody else's problem. This is a big part of our problem is, we live in a society, we just charge up the cards. Oh, and by the way, if the impending threat of Medicare collapsing and the insurance issues and the hospital issues haven't quite painted the obvious for you, let me do so now. Improve your health, okay? If you need to lose weight and you haven't started, start. Because at some point, you're going to be where the buck stops. Your health is your responsibility. And if you're in a situation where you need to rely on drugs and all sorts of things for, like, conditions that can relatively be attributed, especially to just being overweight, you need to lose the weight, because it'll kill you. Not specifically the weight itself. The obesity, the high blood pressure, your increased risk for stroke, diabetes. I could go on, but you need to like reverse that now. You're out of time to start. You need to start now. And the thing that helped me, and again, everybody's different. is I went with a keto diet. I mean, it's still a struggle. Weight comes up, comes back down, but it's a process. Don't expect results overnight. Be patient and kind to yourself, but you need to, especially if you're overweight, you need to drop it now, because there's not going to be a healthcare system to maintain you the way it has. I mean, that's just the reality. So, I mean, I know what other politicians will say, of which, I'm the unusual example. Um, Actually, that's a good question. I lost 60 pounds since September. I mean, I gained 10 back and it's starting to come down, but if you can do 60 pounds in almost a year, I mean, yeah, you can do it. Basically, the key is avoid carbs. I mean, the key is avoid carbs, avoid sugars. That's it. Err on the side of food the way God made it. Green peppers are excellent. Even potatoes are excellent on their own. I mean, it's when you start processing these things, you take out the nutrition. Side discussion. But the bottom line is, you're responsible for your health. No government program is going to make you healthy. We've seen plenty of evidence of that. If you don't get it now, you're screwed. I guess this is the last attempt at an intervention on that, I would suppose. Finally, improve your mind. We live in a society where it has to be said, your feelings are not facts. I cannot particularly care if any of this offends you, and I'm saying this as a candidate for federal office, for Congress, and the 2nd District. Unlike the other candidates, I will not BS you. But I will tell you, your feelings are not facts. Feelings may indicate something's wrong, maybe with your thinking, maybe with a bad situation, but you cannot tell me, I feel like you said X, or I feel like this should. No, drop it. Deal with facts, okay? Deal with facts. You've got a bad situation you cannot vote your way out of. You've got a government that cannot possibly deliver all these wonderful things to you that it has promised. It has cheated you. That is a fact. Now, you may feel bad about that. You may not like it. But it is a fact you get to deal with regardless of how you feel. Logical fallacies. Go ahead, look up the common ones. And basically when you do, it's going to help your thinking. Logical fallacies generally involve, substituting evidence, to try to get to a conclusion that you want to, in short. Like, let me give you an example. Barack Obama got elected on Monday, and the sun came up Tuesday morning. Ergo, Barack Obama made the sun come up. Okay, that's an example of the post hoc logical fallacy. All right? I mean, get your head around those, and it's going to help your thinking. Obviously, the scientific method, it's a great guideline for how to think, and it's a great guideline for, how to solve real problems in your life. So here's what the scientific method is, and you should think about all your problems like this. So you come out with a hypothesis. You're like, I think this is going to happen. And then you design an experiment to test that hypothesis, and then you go test it. And obviously, if the result cannot be replicated, it's wrong. You're missing something. But if it is, it becomes what you would call scientific law. Like Ohm's law, for example, with electricity. You don't need to be an engineer or a physicist to know that Ohm's law works, okay? Current times voltage equals resistance all the time. All the time. It's basic algebra. I don't care what kind of executive orders the president or the governors come up with, Ohm's law isn't going to change. The same thing is true for what's called Koch's postulate, which pertains to, of all things, viruses. Okay? So when the news media runs out and they want to say, oh, well, this actor's losing hair from COVID-19. Well, first of all, bullshit. And I call that because Koch's postulates. So what Koch's postulates is just another example of scientific method. This guy only won the Nobel Prize for this, no big deal. So you observe, a diseased organism, and then you identify the virus in that organism. Then you reculture it out of the organism, introduce it into the same one of the same kind, and it causes the disease to manifest again, and then you reculture it from the second one. That's how you pin a virus or a pathogen to a disease. And the symptoms are the same. So when you see these things like, oh, my dog died of COVID, come on. You can start going like, I call fear porn. I call nonsense. So the more you think according to the scientific method, the easier life's going to get, and the easier a lot of this BS and the spear porn are going to be easier to cut through, and your stress is going to go way down, and you're gonna be glad you did. So of course, trust but verify. I mean, you can't just obviously say this guy's from the government, I automatically distrust him. I mean, it's okay to like trust people, but just verify. I mean, check it out. You may find something that could be done better. I mean, you may find some area of their thinking that's missing. I mean, that's fine. And by the way, this is something that I wish more people took to heart, but when in doubt, tell the truth. What's the worst that's going to happen? The whole purpose of telling the truth is to acknowledge where things are so you can fix and or improve them. Who wouldn't want to do that? Oh, Congress, I'm sorry. But, yeah. And also, the other thing, another one of the last two things you can do, you know, religion, meditation. I mean, go make your peace. Go find your spiritual system that works, or lack thereof, if that's your cup of tea. You know, I mean, you need a mental foundation to help you like sort through things and deal with stuff. And people who don't have that frequently end up under the control of strange, bizarre governments that do these weird lockdown things that make us all, you know, worse off. So, two more things in this. Of course, don't try to run out and do this and get disappointed. You're not perfect. Don't beat yourself up. All these things that I mentioned in this video, you should do all of them as much as you can. You know, of course, one of them being like protest, use it or lose it. I mean, don't think, oh, I'm going to go to a protest, like I just get this poor, awfully looking handwritten sign. It's like it's better than not being there. I mean, look, you live in the time you live in, you go to war with the troops you have. You know, the first move of chess is put your pieces on the board. Don't beat yourself up. You can only improve the more you try. And finally, this is something that too few people in general, let alone politicians, will tell you. It's the truth. You control your life. You're in the driver's seat. Now, if you think you've got to wait for someone to come along and save you, or if we just had more members of this party, or, you know, I'm just waiting on somebody else, it's somebody else's fault, somebody else has to do something first, drop it. The reason I say drop it is because this is why you're in the situation you're in, if you thought like that. So, contrary to popular belief, you are in control of your life, and there is always something you can do. And I've spent the past 33 minutes going over a lot of things that a lot of you watching this have probably done to some extent. And maybe you'll share this video with somebody. Maybe they'll realize, you know, hey, I hadn't thought of any of these things. I didn't realize I had options. It's not just sit around and wait for someone else to fix me or fix my life. You know, you can decide. You have that control. You could waive that control and live like a spectator and suffer through this horrible shutdown and do nothing to try to end it. Or you can say, you know what? I'm where the buck stops. I've got to do something. I've got to live better. I've got to find out how. And you can do that, and it works. So don't be afraid of amazing yourself with the results. So I will leave it here for now. I hope you're all well, and I hope you share this video with everybody. And whether, you know, it's for the purposes of ending these stupid lockdowns or just you living a better life. I mean, I hope you live a better life, you know, and I think if you do all those things I described, you will, you know, and you're going to find you're pretty powerful and amazing. And I wish you well, and I shall talk to you soon.